Well, like a complete moron, I forgot to make sure my audio was recording. So this is part two, using a voiceover of or a final part of finishing up the 67 Camaro's mini tubs. So as you can probably tell, obviously this car is in a lot later stage. It's got paint on it. It's probably been about a year actually since I filmed that last video. I think I didn't even edit it for like 6 months. But what I'm showing right here, and one of the other issues I've had, is right in this edge where I was just pointing, and you can see these weld marks. The tub doesn't fit against the silhouette of the frame rail very well. There's another YouTuber, I forget his name, but he demonstrates the same issue where he had to cut into it and then spread it in order to make it fit. So I did the same thing. Luckily, right where I'm pointing at right now, I made a cut there. Luckily, it wasn't too large. Ended up just filling it with weld. I didn't have to create a patch panel, but there's all kinds of holes there. So now once you get that line cut into your tub, spread before you end up welding it all together, the issue you're going to run into is getting this thing to sit flush. So obviously on the front side of it, you're going to want it to be pushed up against the rocker, and then on the back side up against the silhouette where you've cut out, where you see my welds in my hands right here. On the back side you can pinch it and get it to, but the front side where I'm pointing at now is not so easy. So I used what's called a big red. It's like a hydraulic press to push up against where I'm tapping right there and run it all the way to the back. And then it's a hydraulic ram, so you can press it and it expands and it forces that tub into place. And then once that split is in there, you can go ahead and right where I'm pointing at right there, up to the inside of the outer wheel tub, or kind of like your lip, you can put the press there and push that side in. That's going to make everything tight, flush up against the frame, and then front to back, tight and flush. Then that gap will be there. You're going to tack weld everything in a place first, and then go ahead and fill that gap. This is another odd thing, probably specific to my car, but just in case you run into it. If you see where the original outer wheel tub and up here against the Detroit Speed is nice and flush up top, going towards the front of the car, the older one, the exterior one, it's farther forward. So just in case you run into that issue, the indexing holes on the wheel tub were fine. All the alignment was fine. Just couldn't figure out why they didn't sit parallel with each other right there. But in the end, I decided to just, tack it where it's supposed to be according to the index holes, and then seam seal that gap in place. So now that all that's finished, a lot's been finished since then, but I'm going to go ahead and seam seal this area. As you can see here, got a new brake kit. Long story, going to add it into another video. So I upgraded to the Willwoods. I was going to run those GM standard metric calipers, the Cadillac ones that come on most of these kits, but the conversion kit for a Ford 9-inch, take that GM part over to a Ford 9-inch, absolute nightmare. Can't recommend it. Went ahead, bit the bullet, and went with the Willwood 4-piston setup for just a Ford 9-inch. So it's made for it, so no fitment issues there. And it also has the internal emergency, the drum brake, parking brake inside of there. So it's pretty nice. If you're ever stripping parts on one of these builds, except for obviously exterior body, do yourself a favor and get one of these wire wheel strippers that I'm pointing out right here. I didn't figure this or know what it was until halfway through the build, and complete nightmare without it. I will say though, these little wires, they come off at Mach Jesus, so make sure you're wearing safety glasses. They're gonna hit your legs and it's gonna cause you to bleed a little bit, but as you can see here, they strip everything almost instantly. So I got all the areas I wanted to ground down. I added a little extra on the edges of where I initially did the seam sealer up on the front side of the tub. Like I said, it's kind of cracked in that area, so I'm going to apply some more on top just because that outer wheel tub was farther forward for some reason. So to keep everything clean, I'm just using painter's tape. So I put that on there typically and then peel it off while it's still pretty wet. That way it doesn't, get stuck up inside of there, and then you get a clean line. To do this and apply it, I usually use a horsehair brush, but I've now since figured out that, just go ahead and use one of those flat foam brushes. They do a better job of making it look clean. Then again, this is inside an area that's never going to be seen, and it's I'll end up applying lizard skin on top of it anyways. If you're going to be doing this job too, this is another tool I suggest you just go ahead and get. Obviously, sitting there messing with a manual caulking gun, trying to get an even line is close to impossible. This thing is only like 20 bucks on Amazon. Takes 2 AA's and it works perfect. This is definitely one of those things too where you can't be overly generous, so I always apply honestly more than you need, because you're gonna brush it and peel off the excess with the tape. So I'd rather, have it a little lumpy looking than sitting there breathing in exhaust fumes. So here I am going ahead and brushing in the seam sealer. Like I previously mentioned, go ahead and use those flat foam brushes. You can also use a little reducer that'll help it glide a little bit better. Don't use acetone. I made that mistake when I was doing some areas on the front of the car. It ended up drying, but it almost took like an entire week to dry. So this seam sealer I am using, it's a 3M product. It's a little more pliable too. It doesn't set in super hard. That may have had something to do with it. And then here I am just removing the tape. I end up brushing a little more. So I did have this clean line when I pulled the tape, but the edge was kind of tall. So I ended up just, tapping it down a little with the brush. But that's it for getting that wheel tub in. At this point, I'll Scotch-Brite, this entire area, maybe sand it with 120, who knows, we'll see, and then spray lizard skin on it. So on the inside, I have sound deadening mat. On top of this, that's, I'm in Texas, so we got some thermal protection from the heat out here. No AC in this car, and it'll sound like a Cadillac. So the last issue I ran into is how the tub is circular in this area, and when you cut it out, you have a squared hole. So this patch that you see right here, it's the same shape as the patch I made to close this area up. You're also going to have it a little bit concave to follow that floor body line, but you'll notice once you get the floor cut and that tub in place, it's a pretty large hole. So I made that patch to fill this area in. There's another YouTuber who mentions it. All in the end ended up working out pretty well. Threw some seam sealer on top of that, and we're good to go.